Okay, here we're going to show you the Fender set installation for the Avenue Trikes trike. The fender on the left is the rear fender with the hardware laying out where they should be appropriately placed when they're assembled. And the two fenders on the right of the shot are the two front fenders. The bracket at the top right, black bracket, you will not use. It is possible you will have an extra bolt or nut that you will not use also. So here we have the tools required to assemble your fenders for your Avenue Trikes. We have a 5mm Allen wrench starting at the left, a 4mm Allen wrench, a 3mm Allen wrench, a 13mm open end wrench, an 8mm open end wrench, and a Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so here are the fenders assembled. The fender on the left has the stay attached to it with a Phillips screw and an 8mm nut. And then the two bolts will be used to attach it to the frame of the bike. In the forward hole position, the bolt is already in the frame of the Avenue Trike. The fenders on the right are the right and left specific for the front fenders. These two longer bolts will be replaced with the existing bolts that are in the bike already. Put these ones in place of them. And then the front hoop on the right side of the fender will slide onto the headset underneath the handlebar of the trike. And we'll go into that procedure next. Okay, here we have our Avenue Trike up on a build stand. And we understand you won't have one of these at your house, so just put it on the flat driveway or garage floor. So here we're going to install the rear fender. I'm just going to lay it up on here as to what it's going to look like. The forward hole is going to go into the existing bolt, which is in the frame. And then these two stays are going to be bolted right to the frame right here. Now here we have the procedure for putting the fender on. Some customers prefer to take the rear wheel out of the bike to install the fender. You can do that if you wish, but it can be done with the wheel on the bike. We've already gone ahead and taken the bolt that's in the frame and mounted the front of the fender through there. The rear stay has been attached, and I'm going to connect the bolt and the nut on this stay. And your fender should automatically line up just as it is. Okay, so here we're going to install the right side front fender on our Avenue Trike. It's oriented like this. So what's going to happen, I'm just going to dry fit it first. You notice this ring right here, and there's 3 spacers. You're going to remove the top spacer, and that ring is going to replace it. And then the rear stay is going to be put onto this nut, and this bolt will be replaced with the longer one that came with your kit. We're going to reuse the nut though. Alright, so in order to put our, take this top ring, 10mm spacer out to put this in place of it, I'm going to loosen up these two bolts here. I'm actually going to take the handlebar off, take that spacer out, and then put the fender right in place of it. Loosen these just enough so they're loose. Then this top dust cover, this is a 5mm wrench for all 3 of these. 1, 2, 3. Loosen this, take it right off. So it's just a bolt and a fancy washer. Set that there. And just slide the handlebar straight up. Take this washer, or this spacer off. You will not need that going forward. And the fender is going to go right on here. And we'll line up everything official once this is back together. Handlebar slides back on. We'll take our nut and our dust cover and just snug this down. We'll come back to tightening all three of these appropriately once the rest of the fender is installed. Okay, so we've got the top of the fender loosely installed under the handlebar. Now we're going to move down here to the bottom. This trailing stay, it's going to snap, it's going to bolt right onto here. The factory bolt is going to be taken out, and you're going to use the longer bolt that came with your fender kit. We're using a 13mm box end wrench and a 5mm Allen wrench. The short one comes out, and the long one goes in place of it. You notice here there's two holes also in the kingpin. You want to use the holes on the end that are closer to the middle of the frame. So the bolt's going to go through the steering linkage, through the kingpin hole, a little bit of paint in the way. Let's get her started. And you're going to put the fender stay right onto that bottom of that bolt. And then use the nut that you took off to bind it all back together. So now the top of the fender is anchored to the bike, and the rear stay, which holds the rear of the fender, is anchored to the bike. Just hand tight. Okay, now we're going to do the final adjustments for our fender being lined up to be right over the tire, and bring our handlebar around appropriately. I'm just going to kind of line up the fender with your fingers. Handlebar is going to swing over, and I just use the 2-finger gap. That's a place to start. Just put a little bit of tension on this top 5mm dust cap, and then we're going to tighten these ones down rather tight so the handlebar will not move. Again, this is a 5mm Allen wrench. Now the installation of the left-hand side front fender is identical to this side, so repeat for the other side. You're done.